What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a fun one. It's basically country artists that should be in the Fast and Furious movies. Okay, it's not really that, but it was inspired by me seeing F9 this weekend, and like all the Fast and Furious movies, it was amazing. It's my very favorite franchise because it's in on the joke, and the genie is never going back in the bottle. It just keeps getting more and more ridiculous. But I had the thought after watching the movie that Jordana Brewster, who plays Mia Toretto, the sister of Vin Diesel's character Dom, who's kind of just there for most of the movies until this one when she apparently went to assassin school, this woman has one of the low-key best box office careers of any actress in Hollywood, and it's not because of Annapolis. And to that I say, bravo Jordana Brewster, get your bag. But it just kind of got me thinking about people in pop culture that have a relatively low profile, but a relatively huge career. And I thought it might be fun to look at people like that in country music. People that somehow have had a really big career, but have never gotten super famous. They're not on the cover of People magazine. They're not winning Entertainer of the Year at the CMA Awards. Now, you could make the argument that there are some artists like Dierks Bentley, Brad Paisley, Darius Rucker that fit that bill really well. But even these guys, I would say, have a little bit too much success and a little bit too much notoriety and do sometimes win big awards. And then there's other artists that haven't had such consistent chart success but have found a way to stay relevant in the country music space. Someone like Kellie Pickler comes to mind, who had a few big hits on her first few albums following her time on American Idol, but then kind of stopped being a major chart competitor and kind of transitioned into being a personality in the country music world. But that's not really what I'm talking about either. I'm talking about people that have had consistent chart success and yet have stayed relatively under the radar over the course of their career. Someone like Brice, who from the time of Love Like Crazy to the time of I Hope You're Happy Now has notched 11 top 10 hits, and yet I do not feel like Brice is someone that is gonna bring in the clicks. I would not make him the thumbnail of a video. And you don't hear his name mentioned as like one of the headliners of some new hot country festival. But he's there, he's pretty good, people do respect him, and he's got a career that so many people would die to have. So I'm just gonna go through a couple people that came to my mind, and then you guys can weigh in the comments with yours. And I also polled everyone on Instagram to see whether you feel like your friends would be able to name who these artists are based just on their picture, and I guess that's my measure of someone's famousness. As a control group, I tried to choose the most famous guy and girl I could think of, Blake Shelton and Carrie Underwood, and sure enough, after about 4,000 votes on all these polls, Blake Shelton's recognizability came in at 96% and Carrie Underwood's at 93%. So yeah, I guess it's not people whose careers have been too fast, too furious, it's people whose careers have been kind of not fast and not furious, just kind of there. But hey, slow and steady wins the race. This isn't meant to be shady, it's just meant to be fun. Let's get into it. The first person that came to mind when I started planning this video was Joe Nichols.
Yeah, tequila makes her clothes fall off.
I talk a lot about this free CMT preview in 2002 that is one of the reasons I really got pulled into country music. And The Impossible was one of the big songs that summer that made me just love the genre.
Unsinkable ships sink.
I remember Joe Nichols with his long hair walking around a Navy ship and talking about how he's learned to never underestimate the impossible with just that smooth, beautiful voice that he has. And then he followed that up with the down on his luck kind of sly song Broken Heartsville, where he's talking about how the devil drives a coupe de ville.
I watched him drive away over the hill.
And man, it just had this humor to it, and that whole first album, Man with a Memory, it also had that song, She Only Smokes When She Drinks. So good. I don't think Joe Nichols wrote a lick of it, but it sounded really nice and he sounded really good singing it. Over the years, I think there were some diminishing returns when it came to the quality of Joe Nichols hits, and I feel like that happens a lot when you are not someone that is writing all of your music, because you kind of have to chase trends because you are working with the material that songwriters are providing, and songwriters are trying to get hits on the chart. But still, there's some really fun songs in there. There's What's a Guy Gotta Do, there's Tequila Makes Her Clothes Fall Off, which is probably the biggest other hit. And then there were some very bland but very big hits like Give Me That Girl and Sunny and 75. And his last number one, which if you watched my video about every country song has this lyrics, you will know is Yeah, yeah. For the last 6 or 7 years, he has struggled to have a hit song on the chart. He does have a single out called Home Run now, but if you go all the way back to The Impossible, to Yeah, that is a 13-year span. That's pretty damn good. When I asked on Instagram if your friends would recognize who Joe Nichols is based only on a picture, 30% said yes, 70% said no. So I guess he didn't have clear enough of a personal brand to become one of those iconic artists. The next person that came to mind is Billy Currington.
It's a Friday night, it's a small town girl.
Billy Currington came onto the scene in 2003 with his single Walk a Little Straighter, but it was his next two songs, I Got a Feelin', and then most especially Must Be Doing Something Right, that launched him into stardom.
Must be doing something right. I just heard you.
And they also sort of established him as a dude that sings these sexy romantic songs. A reputation also solidified by his collaboration with Shania Twain, Party for Two, which TikTok is trying real hard to make a hit again now.
It's gonna be really, really hot.
Starting to sound good.
But he had much more of a southern good old boy vibe on songs like Pretty Good at Drinking Beer, or People Are Crazy, or Good Directions, which I learned while making this video, was written by Luke Bryan along with Rachel Thibodeau. And through the mid-aughts, Billy Currington still was racking up hits like Don't It and Hey Girl.
Hey girl, what's your name, girl?
And We Are Tonight, but much like Joe Nichols, they were kind of faceless. They didn't have that kind of memorable charm of his early content. His last big hits was 2016's Do I Make You Wanna, which hit number one a full 14 years after his first single went top 10. So again, an incredibly impressive career. When I asked on Instagram whose friends would recognize Billy Currington based only on a picture, I was surprised at this result. 56% of people said that their friends would recognize Billy Currington, which kind of amazed me. I thought he'd be way lower, but maybe he did a better job establishing his brand than I realized. Next up on my list is Sara Evans.
I could not ask for more than this time together. Could not ask for more.
Sara Evans is the only woman that I really felt kind of fit the framework of this video, because not that many women break in country music, so when they do, they tend to be gigantic stars like Shania Twain, the Dixie Chicks, Taylor Swift, Miranda Lambert, Carrie Underwood. Their celebrity is enormous, and so is their hit-making ability. They just kind of stick around. But Sara Evans was the only person I could think of that kind of would have a hit, then kind of be gone for a couple years, then score another hit, and wasn't winning all of the big awards and wasn't on like big stadium tours. But her career is freaking damn impressive. You know, back in 1998, she had her first #1 hit with a song called No Place That Far. A few years later, she followed that up with a song called Born to Fly that I would say is kind of her most enduring and iconic hit.
I'll be waiting for heaven.
And it kind of has this spunky attitude that a lot of her music is popular for. It's like that or balladry. After Born to Fly, she had I Could Not Ask for More. A few years after that, she had another one of her iconic hits, Suds in the Bucket.
She left the suds in the bucket and the clothes hanging out on the line.
2005, she had A Real Fine Place to Start go to #1, and then after a few years where she struggled on the charts, she had a big comeback with A Little Bit Stronger,
Get a little bit stronger.
which went #1 in 2010 and even was certified platinum. Despite a pretty prolific career, I thought it was interesting that she has very few awards. Pretty much everyone in this video has very few awards in a way that suggests you really gotta play the game and go for the awards if you wanna win the awards. She did win Top Female Vocalist of the Year at the ACM Awards in 2006, her only ACM Award win, beating out Martina McBride, Gretchen Wilson, Leanne Womack, and Carrie Underwood. Sara Evans, when I asked on Instagram if people would recognize her based on picture alone, only 18% said their friends would be able to recognize her, and I was like, damn, that's harsh. But I think it's because like her career kind of peaked 10 years earlier than some of the other people in this video, and Instagram's a young platform, and that's what I'm gonna attribute it to. But I was like, ouch, justice for Sara. Next person I thought of is Josh Turner.
Baby, why don't you go put your best dress
In the grand scheme of things, Josh Turner really hasn't released that much music compared to everyone else in this video. He's only released 17 singles since his debut album, Long Black Train, in 2002. And of those, 7 of them went top 10. The 2 biggest, and now TikTok is totally reviving these as hits, are Your Man
Baby, lock the door and turn the lights down low.
and Would You Go With Me.
If I gave you my hand, would you take it and make me the
Both of which showed off that deep voice and are almost getting even more respect now than they did 15 years ago. I don't know if you saw it, but Josh Turner released a 15-year anniversary of the Your Man video featuring him and his wife kind of reenacting the video after 4 kids and 15 years later. I thought it was awesome. Since the Your Man album, though, Josh Turner has had a much spottier track record, but he has picked up hits here and there. Firecracker became a hit. Why Don't We Just Dance became a big hit. And then he's had a few others like All Over Me. And most recently, Hometown Girl, which suffers from the same Billy Currington, Joe Nichols problem where I'm like, man, this is a generic song.
I need a pretty little homegrown hometown girl.
But that was the name of the game from like 2010 to 2017 on radio. I think the dude just needed something to kind of stick so he could finally put out his album. And since then, he has released a worship album that is so beautiful. I reviewed that somewhere like years ago. Josh has 0 ACM or CMA award wins to his name, and in fact has not been nominated for anything since 2007. I don't know if it was really fair to use a bearded picture of him rather than his standard look in my Instagram poll, but based only on a picture, 48% of people said that, yeah, their friends would know who Josh Turner is, which is pretty damn good. I love the guy, and I feel like he's got one of the best voices in country music ever, and Would You Go With Me is just one of my favorite songs ever. And if not for him, we might never have gotten Scotty McCreery.
Baby, lock them doors and turn the lights down low.
The last two guys I want to include in this video are still making hits, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm just turning the page on them. But the first one is Justin Moore.
Till my last day, till my last breath.
Justin Moore's first big hit was in 2009. It came from his self-titled debut album. It was called Small Town USA. The song showed off his signature kind of snarling twang, and I didn't know this, but there was actually 2 previous singles. The first one was just called I Could Kick Your Ass back in 2008. Justin had a bunch of other hits after that, like If Heaven Wasn't So Far Away, Until My Last Day, as well as Letting the Night Roll and Point at You.
I love the way you lean that seat back, still my ball cap.
Of the 2 big country award shows, he's only been nominated once. Weirdly, in 2014, he won Best New Artist, despite the fact that he'd had like 6 top 10 singles. He'd been around for 5 or 6 years. His first 2 albums have both been certified platinum. It was a very controversial award that they had to bend the rules to give him, but then he's never been nominated for anything else. And that whole story is in a little file I keep in my drawer of weird award show, possibly corrupt things. But yeah, the fact that he hasn't been nominated for anything else is kind of indicative of his career, because he's kept turning in hits that perform solidly, stuff like You Look Like I Need a Drink, as well as Here's to the Ones That Didn't Make It Back Home, but he's not really top of mind when it comes to country celebrities, unless of course you were talking about incredibly drunk pandemic performances, and then he's, A-list in my mind.
I'll play one for y'all and then send it off to somebody way more talented than me.
Lately, Justin has taken a much more traditional approach to his sound, and man, his music has been sounding really good. His last big hit was Why We Drink, and that song rules. According to the poll, based on picture alone, 40% said that their friends would be able to tell them who Justin Moore is. 60% said, nah. Last on my list is Chris Young.
No one gets me like you when you kiss me.
Chris Young actually won the competition series Nashville Star in 2006, but it was in 2009 when he dropped Getting You Home, the black dress song, that he became a big country star with just an undeniable, deep baritone, incredibly just evocative voice.
Did I hear you right? Did you tell me?
And he could soar vocally on songs like The Man I Wanna Be and Tomorrow, and then he could be really charming and fun on so much of that album, Neon, including the song You, and including the song Neon. I love that album.
My favorite color is neon.
And from 2013 through 2019, every single thing the guy touched was a hit. Whether or not it was very interesting, I kind of feel like that's when his music sort of lost a lot of its spark and soul and felt kind of blustering and really well performed, but also profoundly uninteresting. Stuff like I'm Coming Over and Think of You and Losing Sleep and Hanging On, with some awesome songs like Who I Am With You thrown in there too. Even right now, he's got this big ol' hit, this collaboration with Kane Brown called Famous Friends. And yet, despite a very impressive discography, people really don't know who Chris Young is. They probably recognize a bunch of his music, but according to my poll, only 31% of people said their friends would know who Chris Young is. And it's hard to say why that is. Why is someone's personal brand not more memorable? Is it because they don't have one clear message that they're trying to say in their lyrics? Is it because they don't have one kind of iconic look like Eric Church with the Aviators or Luke Combs with the Columbia shirt? Is it because sometimes there's a cowboy hat on and then later in the career the cowboy hat is off? Is it just because they're not kind of putting their relationships out there in the tabloids in a way that kind of makes people interested in them? I don't know. But man, there's no one I wish just had more to say than Chris Young. Crazy about, and I feel like I just wish Chris had more of an artistic vision for himself, because I feel like he's a little bit of a trend chaser. I feel like he is playing a safe game, releasing sort of really broad love and breakup songs that a lot of people will like, but very few people will like deep dive into and want to know more about the artist singing them. And I guess it just bums me out a little that his voice is so good and he's not the artist that I kind of want him to be. The man I want him to be. That would be my single. That's where I'm going to leave today's video. I just thought these were some kind of interesting cases. Other people that came to mind are Rodney Atkins, Dustin Lynch, but these were the people I had pulled on Instagram, and I'm like, this video is long enough, but I'd love to know who you think is low-key popular without ever having been that famous in the comments down below. Every time I get to the end of a video like this, I don't really know what I'm supposed to say. I'm like, this is such a strange idea. I hope I can pull off with the thumbnail and title something that makes it communicatable, but maybe it'll bomb and no one's even watching this outro. I'm not sure. In any case, I love you guys. Stay tuned for more country content. Follow me on Patreon or Instagram or wherever else down below, and I'm gonna probably not make any other videos with this background because I move in 2 days. So, bye.